Hello, LinkedIn community. I'm Sarah from Tribal Impact, and it's been a little while since we've ran one of these LinkedIn lives. We were just talking about it. It was about a couple of months. So I'm really looking forward to this session, and I think there's going to be quite a lot of laughter. But this is a great opportunity to talk to our guests directly today. And we're all talking about video content today and empowering employee voices through video. And we have an amazing guest speaker, Rob Glass, from Make Great Video. And I'm trying to remember how we met, Rob. I think it was through Vineet, wasn't it, at HCL Tech? I think.
Absolutely, yes. He
And
mentioned you,
then
and I got in touch. Yes, yeah.
you got in touch, and we've had a lot of fun since, like laughter and if anybody's signed up to my Tribal Chatter video newsletter, you'll see me experimenting with some of Rob's techniques on video because I've learned everything through Rob's masterclasses. So it's been brilliant. So Rob, do you want to just do a bit of an introduction, like who you are and how you came to be where you are today? Oh, mind you, we only have half an hour.
Okay. Yes.
Your stories are amazing.
Yes.
So.
Well, I was born to parents back in 19. So I did engineering at university. Joined the university radio station and loved it, and that was kind of the switch for me, I suppose. So I moved out of engineering and was lucky enough to get a few breaks and got into the BBC, first through radio, and then into the regional news and television, which was very lucky, but very, very exciting. So I started off doing the weather and then moved up the order slightly to and finalies. A slight progression up the running order at the tail end of the programme. And I think when a light went on for me, it was when it was about 20 years ago. So interestingly, YouTube was just starting about the same time, but they had an initiative there called Personal Digital Production, when they'd get anyone that was interested. And those who weren't interested were pushed into it as well. But they're equipped with a camera and a laptop and teach you how to edit. And I think it was the beginning of sort of brand ambassadors. I having thought about it, having met you and learnt about all this exciting world of brand ambassadors. Because there was 30 or 40 in a room, and we were all taught how to create video content. It just so happened. Our business was video because we all worked in television, and you needed a television station to broadcast, which is so old-fashioned these days. And I just loved it. Every different part of the process was on me. So that sort of became from a broadcast journalist into a video journalist. So I could go out on my own and start making sort of video features without having to ask permission to do, can you film that? Can you film that? Because it used to be crews before. So that was the sort of catalyst. I thought, well, this is just amazing. And I think I've always just thought, surely everyone thinks this, and I think that's been that's what's hindered me. Having had chatting with you a bit sort of over the last few months. I just thought it's a no-brainer, isn't it? Surely this is a brilliant thing, but now I've realised no, everyone's got their own kind of pockets of what they want to do, and just so happened mine was video. So yes, it was like I say, catalyst. So I learned how to sort of make video features on my own, and then I did a voluntary film for Bernardo's, I think it was, because at the BBC you're allowed to volunteer, in the community, and I made a video for them, and it secured funding for another 12 years for this project we filmed. And I went, oh, that's powerful. And I'd never really seen the power of video. I sort of filled 2 minutes, and finally, here's a canoe made out of paper. But actually it's got resin on it and it's not really a story. That was kind of my world, was sort of doing things like it was always just not quite what you'd expect. But then this film we made for Bernardo's, suddenly it got this funding for this amazing project they did for another year, and I went, wow, that's powerful. And that kind of switched me into going, well, now I've seen this power. So I started working independently, sort of a lot of charities and sort of government organizations, I suppose. And that was for a long, long time. So I made I think with the BBC, about 2,000 video features for broadcast in one way or another, sort of over the millennia. And then being shown around one particular charity, I think it was a brain injury charity, Headway, they were trying to get some funding for this idea they had, but in each of the rooms I could see these amazing things happening with the clients, and I just went, you need to, there are your stories. And the problem here is you're having to find funding to pay me. You should be able to go in there and capture these with video, because it's a no-brainer, as I thought. And that's kind of when that's what is right. So I've kind of happened into this position sort of by just sort of, coming in sort of the back door, I suppose, and not just saying, I've seen this thing, let's try and solve it. It's more that this is surely the right thing to do. And then I've kind of met up with you and your brand ambassadors who seem to be wanting to do the same thing. So having had that thought, I started working on a training course going, how do you actually train people to do what we do? And to start with, the technology was too complicated. The editing apps on a laptop were, Control-Alt-I, Control-Alt-Out. That makes sense, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. So I had to kind of strip it all back and go, well, how do you explain it? And then at the same time, iPads were starting to make video, and I was going, woo, you don't have to do Control-Alt-I. You can just push your finger to the right place. That's easier. And as everything got easier, it became more kind of accessible. And now we take sort of smartphones, for granted. Now the amazing video they capture, and how we can edit on them just by pushing things around into the position we want. So it's kind of two things have happened. Working out what I need to say and what's important, and that's taken me a little while. I wish someone had told me when I started, because that's made me think, oh, that's why that project didn't particularly work, and that's why that one did. And the technology's got so kind of accessible that it's kind of, as I've always said, it's surely a no-brainer. Everyone wants to make video, but you've shown me that there's kind of all sort of different sort of aspects to this, which is equally exciting, I suppose. So at the moment I'm running this course with sort of individuals or companies are just starting. So maybe now's the time that people are just thinking, this is accessible and we can see the good in it, and let's just do it, to the best of our ability, maybe. That's kind of ended up sitting here, I suppose.
Yeah, and this is why I wanted to invite you to our community, because I think I've always felt that the future of social content and employee advocacy and employer branding is about elevating the stories of employees and giving them the skills to be able to do that. Now, if anybody's watching this live, I know if you're listening to the podcast, you can't do this, but if you are watching live, feel free to engage with us in the comments, give us a wave, say where you're dialing in from. That would be a good start, and then we'll know that you're there. And then if you want to ask Rob some questions going forward, you can. I've got lots of questions, as always, and I probably will add some more in as well. Now, before we go into the first one, actually, there's something you just said there about, I wanted to know what to say, and then the second part is how, right? And how, and the technology and how I do that. But that the first bit, I think, is where a lot of employees get a bit stuck, right? The whole, how do I construct a story? Have I got something of value to say? Because anybody watching this today, oh, Hassan from Dubai, hello. But anybody who's watching here today, that's probably where they're going to struggle, right? Because you can handpick some employees, put them in a studio, record some beautiful content. It looks a bit polished. But you've got other employees that want to create raw content, a bit like my chatter videos, which are very raw. So if anybody see them, but they struggle with the storytelling. So what advice would you give to employees and program managers that are trying to facilitate that process?
Well, to your credit, you're about 10 years ahead of where I was, because you've gone straight for this word called story. And I think I mentioned earlier that, why did that piece, because when you're doing a piece every day for broadcast and you're never quite sure what it's going to be, you just kind of learn how to go, that would work, and never really take a step back to think about it. But yeah, it turns out, and it did take me far too long to work out, that it's obvious, I hardly dare admit it, that when you tell a story, it has all this engagement with it. And so that's hitting the nail on the head, going, it's this idea of telling stories, because I kind of decided there are three types of video. You can just give people information, so it could be a tutorial on a video app, press this, and that works. And then there's storytelling, which is the sort of the beautiful thing where the audience's mind sort of bursts into life and gets this engagement, which is something I've looked into. And then there's a performance, which is kind of a third sort of something beautiful happening I couldn't understand why one shot of this something beautiful happening was engaging, where sometimes it wouldn't be, and it's because it's kind of a performance. So it is all about sort of spotting a story, and you mentioned there's all sorts of different ways of filming it. So you could just get an employee in front of a camera and get them to say things. And someone from one company said it, but it's got, I don't know if you know what I mean, it's got a whiff of propaganda about it. I know what they mean. If you've suddenly got all these lights around you and you're asking someone to say a certain line, they are saying the line, but they're not really, you know, it's almost acting, you know, it's not really, it could be what they mean, but it's not really authentic. I've been in the position where I've been interviewed by a student for their, end of university course thesis thing, and I had lights all around me, and I was saying things I didn't understand the question, but I was answering them anyway, and I was saying things I didn't really mean. So the whole kind of situation can sort of put you off guard. So it can seem like it's got a whiff of propaganda, or it could be kind of false, but I think you described it as raw, getting people out there making raw, you know, capturing raw stories. Exactly. I think, you know, authentic is another way to do it, but everyone's being themselves. And I think it's that's what I'm excited about, because it's all kind of about trust, isn't it? And trusting what you're seeing, what you're hearing. And when you kind of believe in the people, there's that kind of bond that sort of takes you on that journey with them, I suppose. So I can't remember your question. I think it was.
I knew we were going to go down this rabbit hole.
What advice was it? I think.
How do you get employees to tell stories?
Yeah, and yeah, that's it. And well, spotting the fact it's a story is what you're after is a huge leap, I think. And then with the way I approach it is I strip it all back to going, what's the most important thing, and it's keeping the audience engaged. Because if they go, you know, if no one was watching us, heaven forbid, then it wouldn't matter what kind of cameras we're using or lighting, you know, or whatever, because no one would see it and we wouldn't get our message across. So keeping the audience engaged is the most important thing, because I don't think we're actually trying to make a video. We're trying to make an impact, like that video I made for Bernardo's. The impact was to get funding for another year. And I went, so the video is kind of, you know, part of a bigger chain. And if the audience disappears, then that chain breaks. So it's realizing that to keep the audience, we really need to tell a story. And I think I've been guilty of it before I really thought about it. I think we all know what a story involves and how it's kind of structured, and your hero, and you know, some kind of conflict, and then some journey, and then, you know, the climax when, you know, it's either, you know, do or die or whatever, and then some resolution at the end. But I was certainly good. We want beginning, middle, and end. Yeah, I know what a story is, Rob. But you're making a video and you kind of just throw it all out the window, I think, and just go, I need to interview that person, I need to walk along and say this. And I'm going, right, now we know how to do it. Let's structure everything into a storytelling. So when we're actually filming our videos, we think about who the hero is and what the conflict is. And when we're talking to them, we just ask them about those particular elements that are going to sort of sit in the story. So that's 20 years of thinking just in the last 4 minutes of it. That's what I think. So
all
yeah,
distilled.
I think it's remembering you're trying to tell a story at each sort of turning you've got with your video, going, is this helping the story? I think.
Yeah, and the hard part is, I think, as well, is that you've got to do this in a short amount of time, because our attention spans are getting quite short, right? So
yes,
you know, I think the maximum is like 2 minutes on a video, maybe on LinkedIn, or even less than that. I think it's less than that now. But people, if you want to stop the scroll, you've got to make an impact in the first 3 seconds, and then you've got to not keep whittling on for another 3 minutes. I just want to say hi to a few people here. It's Janani, thank you. Lauren's here. Dan, hello in Devon. So thank you for joining us, guys. And if you've got any questions for Rob, you feel free to shoot them out. But yeah, it's hard, I think. So there's a lot of pressure on people to record videos. Now, one thing I did share a little tip actually in my chatter video last time, which was I did this thing with Vin Yang, if anybody's heard of Vin Yang, and he does this thing that if you're really worried about being in front of a camera, he said just talk for 5 minutes and just record yourself, and then don't share it anywhere. But the first thing is just to listen to it back and listen to the animation in your voice, then watch it back without the audio to see how physically you're interacting with your audience. And then he said print off the transcript and then highlight all the filler words like and 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 that sort of helps build the confidence. So, which I thought was quite a good tip actually for those that are a little bit nervous. Um, she said.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I saw the video and it resonated with me. I'm doing some video tutorials at the minute just with the phone, and I used to just go, get a mic on me and talk it through as I'm doing it. And then having sort of seen your sort of tribal chatter thing, I went, yeah, there's a lot of ums and likes and, oh, we don't need that. I'm still doing ums now. I need to speak slower, don't I? Yes.
Speak slower and more considered.
So I've changed my routine and I've been through it, and now I write a script. I'm just trying this out. I know I write a script. I've got to put an in there. Sorry.
Okay, do it.
And then I read it out without, so there's no ums. I'm just reading a script like presenting, and then I make the video, make sure that matches that. And sure enough, yeah, it's saving sort of 2 minutes cutting out the waffle, which is very useful. I'm now painfully aware of all my ums and ers now.
Yeah, sorry about that. I've pointed those out. So LinkedIn user, I don't know who you are. I'm really sorry. Oh, it's Hassan. Is it? Okay. So I'm going to jump to this question because I did have this later, but we'll jump to it now. I'd love to do more video content, but the editing pulls me back. Is there a super easy AI enhanced editing app, or can AI do it for us? What's your view? Right, there's two questions there. So tools and that you can use, but also AI. So there's two questions we were going to ask. So tell me about tools. There's
definitely two questions there, and I think there's a huge leap between the two. And I changed my mind a lot. I mean, it took me so long to get my head around vertical video, which is de rigueur now. And for a long time I was saying it has to be, and there were a lot of people on side going, has to be landscape because your audience has two eyes and that's how we see the world, so it matches that. But I've had to change my mind because the audience has a phone and won't turn it that way to watch a film. They'd rather scroll. So if you're going to get noticed, you need to make it vertical. So that took me a long time to go, okay, vertical it is. I just feel sort of caged in when you're filming. I don't know what it is. So on that same basis, how is AI going to affect our world? And I'm really keeping a very keen eye on that. On the whole, I'm sort of think it's just fantastic. But the question is, what are the apps and what's an AI enhanced one? My favorite app used to be CapCut on the mobile phones, but I've just changed it to VN, which V the letter and N the letter, stands for Vlog Now. And I just think it's just superb. But that's using all the footage you've garnered and putting it together in kind of an old school kind of way. I mean, it has got some AI features on it, subtitles and all that kind of thing. But is there one that just uses AI? I think CapCut has more AI features to it. But I tried one feature once and go, can you make this? I think I was using an editing app on my laptop called Descript, which is a standard kind of procedure now. It will transcribe your video. So if you've got an hours long interview, it'll transcribe it into text, which is much easier to sort of scrub out the bits you don't want. The first thing it says, remove all the ums, and you've lost 10 minutes already with from someone like me that's going all the time, which is huge, going just 50 minutes. But before, you have to keep scrolling backwards and forwards through this 50 minutes of time, to chop it down. So it would take sort of an exponential amount of time till you actually got it down to a good size. But with a bit of text, it was really good. I need them to say that, I need them to say that, and I need them to say that. I definitely need them to say that because that's when they got emotional. And that's what it's all about. And so that was a really good way of editing now. So that's kind of an AI editing app called Descript, which I think it's just on laptops. I'd have to have a look. But that gave me the option of going, can you tap in? This is where I'm going with AI, and I'm still not quite sure about it. I said, well, okay, well, based on what you've got, Descript, can you make me a 1:30 video which highlights this, particularly the student awards I was making, the students' story in 1:30. And I thought, and then it's job done. And what came back was just terrible. It was just a single word. It was just chucked little words together. I was going, no. And there are some that bring in extra footage, but it's just footage that isn't connected to the story. It's strangers in doing all this kind of thing in offices. And I'm just going, I can't. Who's that? Who's that? Where's he gone? Is he
Not
part of the
you.
story? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of quite hoping AI has got it sorted so I can put my feet up and not edit ever again. I was going, no, we're not quite there yet. So I haven't found one. I've been looking for an AI app that will do a nice sort of animated graphic, which I thought would be good. I went on a walk around an island recently. I thought, can we find one that would just put little footprints around an island?
Oh yeah.
A map of an island, and I can't remember which one I was using, but it was coming up with some. It wasn't doing what I wanted. So I guess it's all in the questions you ask. So yeah, VN is my go-to editing app. But as for an AI enhanced one, I'm still watching this space.
Yeah.
And just while in this hot pot of AI, they're starting to say you can put in your instructions of what you want your actual video clip to be, and the AI will make it for you. That's what this graphic one. It had a shot of an island walking around it. I was going, well, that's good because I don't have to go to the island to film that. But it's a kind of mythical island. It wasn't anywhere, and I can't yet, and I keep my mind open. I can't yet see the point of having a shot of an island which doesn't really exist. And just. I worked with an NHS team recently, and they've sent me a video they made, and it was some children getting flu vaccines, and it's just whoever made the video. It's just great because you see the children, and it's all about putting them at their ease. And there's one child that smiles after it's all over because it was fine, it didn't hurt or anything. It was just a little spray up the nose, and I don't think AI could ever reconstruct that smile of genuine. It's fine. And if it did, you wouldn't believe it because it's AI. So I don't quite know about AI yet. Is my answer.
That's so interesting because this interlinks with a lot of the topics that we had at our event actually in May, where we talked a lot about trust, empathy, authenticity, how people, especially in advocacy, where people trust people, right? And I think this authenticity plays to the emotional part that you're talking about here, and if you miss that, you've missed the essence of what makes a video engaging. And there's a bit of a side conversation going on over here. So Henry's talked about CapCut. Henry, my daughter, if you've read the newsletter, she's all over CapCut, but I preferred VN after Rob's training, and also CapCut's associations with TikTok and all the rest of it. So you just don't know where that's going to end up. We've got a question from Dan here. I'm just going to go for the questions. I am ticking off when you're covering other things, though, Rob.
Okay, good.
She mentioned NHS. Don't worry, I'll keep us on track. There we are. So Dan said, what to talk about that will interest the target audience, especially in a very dry industry? Financial services. It's all right, Dan, no one's listening or watching on the podcast or live. But yeah, how do you turn, especially in B2B, which is where we are, how do you turn those topics into something interesting for audiences? I don't know, Rob, if you could answer that.
Yeah, well, a couple of thoughts. My first one is I'm interested to know what your values are. So I'm sure that the company has got some values, and that's where stories start, I think, or relevant stories, because stories will kind of point towards some value. So that NHS one was pointing towards trust in the NHS, and you can see how they're looking after you, which is part of their values as well. So that's why it was a good story to tell. So it's not, you don't just tell every story you can imagine, like how I don't know why this popped in. How I once went to work with 2 different coloured shoes on because they were the same make.
Did you?
Brown and a black one, yeah. And I just noticed it, and I thought, well, I could perhaps get away with it. And then someone noticed at the same time, said, "You've got odd shoes." I went, "Oh, yeah." So, for example, that's a story. Mind you, why have I told it? I don't know. There must be some reason behind it. But that's a story you wouldn't need to tell in your financial services environment. But my next thing is, or is it? What I'm interested in is working with groups, like cohorts of people, and once we know how to set up a shot and film, and we know why we need to hold things steady, and we know what to ask, it's what I'm loving, especially now you sort of introduced this world of brand ambassadors, is where do you take it? Because I know where we'd take it at the BBC, towards regional news stories, and that's kind of what I'm doing. But when you haven't got that agenda, where would you go? And would you have a story about someone wearing odd shoes? Would that fit in? So there's all sorts of questions about what sort of image you're happy to give. But I think there are also some go-to ideas, like a day in the life of sort of thing, or my corner of the financial services. So you pick sort of 3 of 6 different things about what you're most proud about being there, and sort of feed that into a story. And that could be kind of template driven once you know what sort of bits to get, just as a kind of exercise. But yeah, I'm really interested to know where would people go with it, if they wanted to. I think one of the best stories I saw, and it just happened to be caught, was the managing director of a big financial company, I think, was walking through, but they were filming something else. But I think either he knocked, I don't know, he knocked him. Someone just spilt a cup of coffee near him, and this managing director, without really thinking about it, started helping mop it up. And I'm going, that's that. But it just was so lucky they were filming it at the time. So it made a really good sort of genuine story. This is our managing director who will help anyone. And I think that's a good story. But that just happened to occur in front of the camera.
But what you started with there was values, which I thought was really interesting. And I wrote down pride. And I'm going to do a bit of a shout out to Vicky Saunders, because she did a talk at our event around the connection between empathy, advocacy, and pride. And why companies are proud to work for you, and the story, I think, conveying product stories or company stories, it has to come from a place of who you are as a person and how you connect your values to the company values. And the story could be that I've got odd shoes on, but actually what I'm here to talk about, and it humanizes the brand. I mean, this is why I think actually video is more important for employee advocacy and not less, because it will actually allow your employees to be authentic and themselves. But that's the biggest hurdle I think a lot of employees have. I think they can't get over that. So
yeah. I did go to a talk once, and one of the ladies there was going home. I can't even believe this is true now, but I saw it with my own eyes. An electric unicycle. And I just thought, that's such a good story, and it's so easy to film. But this is so and so that works here. She goes home on an electric unicycle. How I'm interested. Would that fit into your brand? About we are real people that do these things, and also care about your finances. So yeah, I think we're at the stage where we can push the barriers, because we don't have to keep asking permission anymore. It's not like working for a news outlet, and we can choose our own agendas, and I think that's really exciting. And I think we kind of do it in steps.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing, actually. Oh gosh, we have covered off a few questions here, which is good. I think that's employees are creating videos whether we like it or not, right? So they're doing it on their Instagram accounts, they're doing it on Facebook. There's my daughter's sports day race this morning. I wouldn't post it on social, but I'm recording video. So employees are already doing video. So your point about they don't have to ask permission anymore. If you want to go into a studio with lighting, but then does it feel so natural? But encouraging your employees to do the technique that they're already doing, but do it slightly better. It's a good skill for them. And it's also good for the company if you can give them some guidance on storytelling, which I think is quite interesting. So
yeah. I mean, on the permission thing, I don't quite know what I mean ever. But so when you said that, I thought, but you need to keep it within certain realms, because you know, I think you all need to decide what's acceptable. And I worked for Grant Thornton, accountants, and I know their CEO at the time was huge on letting people do what they want, and her argument was, I've employed you're employed here, I trust you all, and therefore go and make video, because I trust you, you're sensible, clever people. But I thought, well, that's a huge part of the chain, really, just that being allowed to go and create this content, and another side of the coin is with it was the NHS, the chap that sort of sorted all that out said, yeah, a lot of my sort of people in this team are making videos just like you said and posting it. So I've either got to say stop, we need to make this on brand, or go. Let's think about these aspects. And he was happily to report a go sort of person, sort of, and that's a big
But I
part of it. I
think you
think
have
is that.
to, Rob. I
Yeah,
think you have to, because people are anyway, so you might as well give them it's like social media about 10 years ago where it was like, oh, we need to stop this, stop access, stop, nobody at work you can't use your work laptop to access social. And it's like, look, they're just going to do it on their phone in the coffee queue, right? So they're already on there, it's happening. And I think video is the same, right? Employees are already doing it, so you might as well put the guardrails up and give them some structure and some best practices and training, which is, you know, your online training around how to do this, and give them that framework. So we've got another question.
And just before that question, he says rudely, almost taking charge, one might argue.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, what's going on here?
Dangerous. What's happened? And unfortunately, what I'm going to say is quite boring. Oh dear. But I'm still going back to the fact. I don't think I've answered the financial question mark, what sort of footage you make. But I don't know if you've ever seen one of the ones, every month they have a putting competition in certain companies. And if you can put it right down the corridor and get it in the cup or something, you win the afternoon off or something. And I've ever seen anything like that. And it's just, that's just something else. If there is any, and so, you know, you film them all, but then the one that goes in gets a big cheer, and then you get this kind of glowy feeling of going, well, these are all people that work together and they all support each other, and that cheer is kind of heartfelt. And it's little things like that going, could you even say every month we're going to do ... and then film it? So it's kind of, it perhaps wasn't there already, but it would make a good video. And then you kind of just go, well, that's what we're going to do every month, as like just a little office competition, but something that matches, you know, what your office would do normally. But thinking that would make a video if it ever worked. I told you I shouldn't have interrupted.
No, it's fine. No, that's good. It's
fine. Good, okay.
So Henry's asked, how do you stop or recognise when perfectionism becomes an issue?
Yeah,
Henry, I'm not sure you should have asked Rob that. I don't. You should see some of my videos.
It's a huge, that's a huge sort of cog in the system. I'm just doing something at the minute, and I keep going back, and the graphic isn't quite right, and I'm going, at what point is it okay? When I'm doing my training, I lean on a quote by John Lasseter from Pixar Films, and he says our films don't get finished, they just get released. And I'm thinking, if he's doing, you know, Up or Monsters Inc. or something, and he's saying it's not perfect, it's just released, I'm going, I thought it was pretty perfect to me. Then that's the kind of attitude of going, yeah, we just need to get that out there. And I've also noticed something else in work, that there is a peak, and then the more you start working on it, the kind of worse it gets. It kind of suddenly it's kind of right. You know, maybe if I just change that, it just starts to get a bit. There's something that happens that goes, ooh, this is getting worse now. It's finished, you know. And so it's kind of recognizing that kind of stage. But yes, I guess it's a lot of experience of letting things go that that the audience won't notice, but you did. But it's actually stopping you.
But I wonder if the more you do it, the more you
get.
So
did you see me having lots of memories there, going painful memories?
Yeah, I'm not saying that story. No.
no,
I have heard some of your stories, Robert.
Didn't work.
They made me cry with laughter. But yeah, I think maybe also the more you do it, the quicker you'll get as well. I could be wrong, but even mine are right rough around the edges, and the last chatter one was just all bumpy. I forgot my selfie stick, and talking of equipment and stuff. Have you got any recommendations? Because we have talked a little bit about the apps and some of the software, and there's a bit of a side conversation. Hello, Ollie. All chatting to each other on the side here about Descript. But you know, kit. What sort of kit could be good? Because you and I talked a little bit about these little Bluetooth mics or something, which I looked at but didn't order, which are quite cool, aren't they?
Yeah. But I keep meaning to ask, and perhaps you can answer now, because you're too busy any other time, and I forget to ask. I ask in my head, but not out loud. Your tribal chatter videos, the sound's really good. So I was wondering, are you doing it through those
earpods.
Mics or? Yeah,
Yeah,
because
earpods.
yeah, because that sound has got noted. Very good.
Oh,
So yeah, I've been watching. So stepping back, my sort of process. I agree with you. We need to engage with the audience, and their attention span is really small. So for the first, I think about 3 seconds is what we can say for a video before they might click away. So for the first bit, we make sure every bit of video we make has good manners. I'm calling it. Which I'm just going to hang up there and come back to, because that's where the mics are. And the next bit is then we can reset their attention by using a different ingredient, which is kind of how we see the world. You know, I'm looking at a camera now, and now I'm looking at a desktop, and now I'm looking at a microphone. And so we see the world with these different ingredients, and then the last bit is going, and can we tell them as a story? And that's how we can keep the audience's attention for maybe up to 2 minutes, maybe, and then we'll see where we are. So those are the 3 things. And so the first one is good manners, and it's not just holding the camera steady so they don't feel sick, and getting things in focus, because that sort of mirrors how we see the world. It's also the sound. So I've always been looking at. That was one of the big hurdles to start with. These huge clunky click-in things and big cables between us was good enough at the time, but it's a trip hazard and everything. And then I noticed Bluetooth microphones coming in, which I happily happen to have there. So my favourite, this turns into a shopping channel thing. That was my favourite for a while. The newer CM28, and that's under £100, so that you get something that clicks into your phone and your microphone clicks on, which you sort of mentioned. It's got 2, but then someone said, "Well, have you tried the Tonor? What's that one? Tonor I tried it down, so it's not written down anywhere. TL350, the Tonor TL350 is the same kind of thing. You've got to choose what phone you've got, because it doesn't have the adapter. But that's about £20, and I've gone, when I started, radio mics were about £1,000 or more pounds. You know, so for £20 you can get really good quality sound. And then as for selfie sticks, I'm not really a selfie sort of person. I prefer metaphorically turning the camera around and filming the stories that are going on, which helps also if you don't really want to appear in front of camera as well. But I've tried it a few times, and I find them really difficult to get the framing right. So I need to have a little play with a gimbal, you know, these kind of automated ones. That's next on my list. Can't wait to have a play with one of those, to be honest. And the one I've got my eye on, I can't remember the name because there's no point because I haven't even tested it yet. But that uses AI to keep your framing right. I'm going, happy with that AI keeping my framing right, rather than me just disappearing off the shot. So I don't know enough about those, but that's something I'm interested in.
Yeah, and we talked about those little microphone things. So when in tying this back to employee advocacy, look at the time already. I could talk to you all day, Rob. But you could actually give those out as a bit of a freebie if you wanted to gamify it or incentivize, people that are great content creators. I've got to call out Click actually, because I did a post last week or the week before about employee generated content, and one of their employees is Natural Video Maker, they onboarded him and his colleague and said, look, come to our big customer event in Orlando and be our employee reporters. And he did a smashing job, Kurt. He was just amazing. And he created videos at the start of the day, the end of the day, got behind the scenes shot. He was in the Universal Studios on the rides. And, if you engage your employees to be part of the content creation process, not only can you reward them with little branded microphones, I think that's what you gave me that idea, Rob, but you can also invite them to your customer events and be like employee reporters, which I just think is a fabulous idea, and it's great recognition for them to do that.
I've gone a bit shivery at that. The idea of you've got your own, wow. I'll have to have a little moment's silence. The idea you've got it's just brilliant. I love it. The idea you've got your own.
Don't be silent for too long, because I do have one last question.
It's not great broadcasting, is it? But no, the idea that you've got your own brand ambassador newsroom sort of thing that you could ask to tell those things, but in their own way is kind of just wow.
Through their eyes.
And then you've not got that's another thing. You've not got the problem of trying to find out, a golf putting thing or trying to find something. You've got this event. That is your story. And the fact was it Kurt, did you say, did stories throughout the day? I think that's something that turned me onto this idea as well, because I went to film our daughter doing a cross country race, and I sent it to the rest of the family, this is her doing the race. Oh, this is her winning third prize. I know. And I'd sent those just by editing them very quickly with a bit of voiceover going. I was late because I couldn't find money for the parking meter. But I realised I'd broadcasted 2 pieces of footage quicker than the lunchtime news had managed to turn anything around at the BBC. I'm going, oh, this is really instant. And then it's gone. And so if Kurt's doing pieces through the day, you're not waiting sort of a week afterwards to get a resume of the day. You're kind of living it, which is kind of why it's also exciting. Yeah. Sorry.
And also, the marketing team isn't big enough, doesn't have enough budget to cover all of this. So we better start getting, on the right side of this. Oh, right. I've got 2 questions now, so I'll put yours first, Henry, because yeah. The community is more important. Do you foresee AI avatars replacing the majority of influencers in the future? So, like, not real people, or are you talking about, Henry, my AI version? Because that scares me, and I've tried it. So I've done this using Vidyard. I've recorded myself, and then it creates my video with me saying a script, which was also AI generated. It looks a bit odd.
Oh,
maybe I do look like that. Maybe I just maybe it was more authentic than I thought.
I think I heard, whether they're going to replace television news reporters, whether that could be done, which is kind of, but that's not what we're talking about.
Kind of, I suppose. Could they? Could they be AI generated? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. But so I think with the whole thing, I see if I can remember them. I've counted. I think we wear 6 hats when we're trying to put together some video content. So with your tribal chatter, you were expert in your field, undoubtedly. Writer, so you had an idea for a script involving that. What's his name again? The chap that told
Vinyang.
you and me to slow down. Yeah. So you had an idea to write a script. Come on, that's 2. What else do you do? Another huge one is set design, which people more and more think about. And so you went through the woods, YMCA woods. Did you say? I was concentrating.
YMCA.
Yeah. So, but you thought about the set design, and then you think about your camera. So, there's one more. I'm going to forget it. I think I've only got to 5 again. It'll come back to me. No. Yeah. So camera on your what do you call it, selfie stick. Being a presenter, which is what actually I'm mentioning this because this was the question. You'll be pleased to know, and how to slow down and be the presenter, and then you edit it all together so it's not just all the outtakes and everything. It's what you wanted the audience to see. So there's 6 parts. And I think AI can really be really helpful in lots of those places. But will it replace you doing the presenting in that particular strand? I've tried a different one as well, and I had AI Rob saying some stuff, and he couldn't not look at you. He couldn't do that, for example, but he will one day, and he occasionally went after he said something, which not as good as I can do it
in the Matrix.
But he could remember complicated phrases that I couldn't. So he has 1-0 on me there. So I want to do a double
but it won't be long
with him, and just kind of embrace him, and knowing this kind of weird AI Rob's got sort of faults, but he can still be quite helpful. I think my answer is very long answer is I can sort of see it, but I don't know. If it's just that there's not that connection. I think you mentioned it earlier on. There needs to be that connection. Otherwise, we'll just let all the AI bots watch all that, and we'll crack on with. I'll watch you on your tribal chatter. They can all get on with their AI stuff. I don't see the point of watching something that's just fabricated. So I've got my eye on it. But it's kind of how we use it, really.
I like your idea robotic about AI helping in some of those 6 steps, but will it ever replace us completely? Probably not. But right, I can't believe we're up on time, Rob. I was going to ask you, but you have shared some of these things already, which is around impact. I think for me, the big statement that you came out with, there's a few things actually that I've taken notes of. We're not here to make a video, we're here to make an impact. And I think that is going to stick in my head, because it isn't about making a video. It's about what are we trying to do at the end of this video, whether you're helping organizations or employees are doing it. It's about making the impact. So I really like that. And this whole connection between values, stories, pride. We don't all have to stand up and do a corporate selfie video on our products and services. We can actually humanize the brand a little bit through employee stories, life at the company, or, you know, just talking about the thoughts and your expertise and what your opinions are. And, you know, we all know that your opinions are your own and not representative of the company. So I think the whole conversation around AR is very interesting, because I like that idea where you've explained the 6 elements, but how AI can perhaps fast track and support quite a few of those, but not maybe all of them yet. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So thank you, and I've got to say, huge thank you, Rob. And where do people find you? What's your URL if they want to learn more about you, what you do?
I think the LinkedIn, you can find me under Rob Glass at LinkedIn. I've got a kind of website that kind of does a little bit on makegreatvideo.com. I don't quite know where I'm up to with that at the moment. I'm going through a state of change again, because I'm trying to move from just showing people how to do it and then wondering what they've gone on to do into the next part, which is, okay, now you know how to do it. What are we going to do? And kind of working with sort of cohorts that way. And that's another thing. It's just another idea is setting challenges of a day in the life of, so you don't have to worry about everything. Oh, this is one of my challenges I need to do. And actually you end up getting 40 or so really good videos which are usable out of it, because that was just, you know, the assignment. And so coming up with really canny assignments that kind of really reflect the values, etc. So that's another thing. So that's where I'm moving with all that at the moment. But you know, it's I see it like a murmuration of starlings, where everyone, where's it all going? You know, and let's follow that.
So absolutely follow Rob on LinkedIn, and then you can jump to. But I'm halfway through your boot camp, and it's brilliant. And you're doing training with our team next week, actually, which is great.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for that. And thank you for everyone who's listened today. Oh, Julie, I didn't know you were on. It was a great discussion. And Rob is super funny as well. Even your videos, actually, your training is really funny as well. Yeah, so thank you for everyone on all the side conversations and all your amazing questions. We're back in a couple of weeks' time, and we're talking about creating a leading program. So advocacy program, employee advocacy program. So please come along to that. You're very welcome. And if you're interested to see some of my chatter videos, I think Ryan popped the link in a bit earlier, so you can have a look at some of my videos and how not to do it, or work in progress. That's what we shall say. And I did actually share, because one of my daughters who uses CapCut picked up one of my videos and added some very rude sound effects to it. If anybody wants to see that, you can just direct message me and I can send you that one. It was quite funny. It's impressive, right? She was good. I did send it to Rob.
Absolutely.
So yeah, anyway, have a good one, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.